So we'll try to give you a minute to minute. If anybody knows how it comes out, please share.
I'm sure you'll want to.
All right. So this is our last panel, and it's going to be a good one because I think we're going to get down to some nitty-gritty of where are we going with the Alabama Seal of Biliteracy, right? We've had a lot of macro information. Now we're going to kind of shake it down, if you will, to more specific information. So what I did was I looked at inviting two key people and then another key person for a different reason. But the two key people that I first came to mind were Krista Chambliss and Susan Spazzini, both doctoras, as we say, simply because they have been in it for the long haul, like really for the long haul. Like it took 7 years for us to be able to have the Seal of Biliteracy signed into legislation. And so what I'm going to do is briefly introduce each of our speakers and then just kind of let them do their thing, so to speak, and then we'll certainly want to allow time for questions and a little back and forth. So the first person that will speak is Dr. Krista Chambliss, and I could probably do her intro without even reading, but having said that, on go the reading glasses. So she's an associate professor of Spanish and French and foreign language education at UAB, and she has a master's degree in Romance languages in Spanish and French, and a PhD in foreign language education. Now, it gets even more fun when you get to talk about Krista. She was the SCOLT, which is the Southern Conference on Language Teaching Educator of Excellence in 2013. And in 2021, she won the coveted ACVL Wilbur Rivers Award for Leadership in World Language Education. She's a frequent presenter at conferences, and she is currently the sitting president of SCOLT. If you are unaware as to what SCOLT is, it's a wonderful regional language conference that we have in the Southeast. It's a Southern Conference on Language Teaching. Krista was nice enough to bring us flyers that were at the table this morning because we're pretty excited in the state of Alabama that we will have SCOLT coming to Mobile this spring. And that's close, guys. That's a lot better than driving to Norfolk, okay? So this is your opportunity to get in on several really great days of professional development. So I urge you to go to SCOLT Mobile in March, correct? Yes, in March. And so at any rate, I wanted to put a good plug in for that. But it doesn't end there with Krista. She has been very involved with ALA, which is the Alabama World Languages Association. And I will cut to the chase here, but she's also a researcher. She's published numerous articles in academic journals such as Foreign Language Annals. And then on top of all of that, she co-hosts a podcast called Step Into Mondays about world language teaching. And you can Google it to get there, or you can go to our AATSB website and go to podcasts, and it's available there as well. So Krista will be talking to us, obviously, about the seal and how it came to be and where we're going. And then the next person up will be Maria Franco. And Maria Franco, right in the middle there, she is with the Alabama State Department of Education. So she's the person who's been charged with the administration of the Seal of Biliteracy in our state. And so let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an English learner education administrator by trade at the Alabama State Department of Education. She's been in education for 18 years, where she shares her passion for immigrants and believes that every child is unique and deserves a caring, inspiring, and engaging atmosphere to grow emotionally, intellectually, and socially. So as an English learner administrator, she wants to help students meet their fullest potential. So in her work, Maria collaborates with local and state educators to promote and support an equitable system for all students. So we're really pleased and proud to have you here because she's our link to what's going on in Montgomery, and obviously, if you're looking to award the state seal, she will be a key contact for you going forward. And then last but certainly not least, is Dr. Susan Spazzini, who I have known for many years. I mean, it's delightful to think about. And she is in a very special role at UAB. She is a professor of English learner education at UAB. She directs the K-12 certification programs in ESL, world languages, and the arts. Now, she's just not a plain old ESL person. Listen carefully. Okay, so she holds a bachelor's degree in linguistics from the University of California, San Diego, a master's in teaching languages in German from UC Berkeley, and a PhD in curriculum and instruction in ESL from the University of Alabama. And she's currently a Fulbright scholar collaborating with the National University of Asunción, Paraguay. So these are key people for you to know. They will be creative about finding solutions to barriers you might be experiencing, and they're all right here in Alabama. So with that said, what I will do is be quiet and let them pass the mic, and basically they're going to go down the row and make their comments, and then we can turn this into a discussion. Thank you.
All right. So Sherry had asked me to kind of talk about how the SEAL came to Alabama and what the Alabama World Language Association's role has been. So as Lisa Garrison, you saw in the video, told you all, she went to Scolt in 2014. We were talking about it. She said, I really think that we could do this. So I set up some meetings with Linda and with Paul Sandrock from Asheville, and we spent all of 2015 looking at guidelines and how to set everything up before they began implementation in 2016. So they were kind of our pilot school. And we had thought, well, we'll get some really great data, we'll go to the state, boom, we'll get the seal. And it didn't quite work that way. That was my naivete with the political systems. But anyway, so it kind of had a grassroots effort. Mountain Brook started it, and then we had cities in Madison and Mobile and in Jefferson County, and so it kind of took off from there. And then it was actually Decatur, and it was an ESL program. Representative Terry Collins was at a school, and she heard about it. She's like, this is wonderful. And so we finally had an inroad. And it took a while, even with Terry's support, to get there. It was 7 years from the start until it was signed in April of this year. But we were so excited that it was signed. So it has been a long road for us, and we've had a lot of support from Arthur Cho out in California. He was really a big pioneer with the SEAL. So as far as what the Alabama World Language Association's role is, we are the state language association, so if you are not a member, shame, 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 you should be. It's only $25, and we have a lot of great professional development opportunities for you that are language specific. Because I know I was in a school for 6 years. I was the lone Spanish teacher, and I got sent to so many social studies, professional developments. I can't even tell you. I can probably teach social studies, after all of that. But this is language specific for you. We have a conference every year. It's usually in January. This year it is in March because we're partnering with Scolt, as Sherry had said. You do have a flyer if you want to submit a proposal, because I know you all are doing wonderful things in your classroom, and we need to hear about it. It's also a great opportunity for you to connect with other language teachers. One of our own Alabamians, she won the Founders Award from Scolt last year. She said, I just love Scolt. It's like a mini Asheville without the walking. So, it's a great opportunity right here close to home, so please really consider that. But ALA also has summer professional development workshops. And we try to make sure that we hit the north, the central, and the southern parts of the state. And so next year, we really are going to talk about the SEAL and what all you can do, and how AULA, depending on how you want to pronounce it, how we can help you, how we can support you in your instruction. But after hearing everything today, I thought that maybe I would take just a minute to share with you what I think one of the very first things that you all should do is you all should get the Global Seal of Biliteracy for yourselves. That should be step one. And that's for a lot of reasons. First of all, you do need to know what your own language proficiency level is. And I know some of you are cringing thinking, I don't want to know. But yes, you do. And that will give you some motivation on areas where you need to work. Second, you can tell the students, I understand, I know, I've been there, I've got my seal. I know exactly the stress you're going through, and I get the anxiety piece of it. Because so many times, let's face it, right, the students are like, you have no idea. Because we're old, we can't possibly relate. But I think that's a very beneficial piece, right? And then also the experience of taking the exam will help you better prepare your students. So I think that is the very first step that needs to be done. I know all of you are sitting here thinking, I need to get this implemented. What do I need to do? What's my first step? That's step number one. Is get the seal yourself, okay, and look at your own proficiency and your own learning. That should be the very first thing. Then you have to understand the proficiency levels, and that's one of the things that we're going to be working on next summer. Actually, Avant has a wonderful program. It's called Advance, and it's completely online. It's a little expensive, but I did the program, and you go through, and it teaches you about each of the proficiency levels, and it gives you feedback, and you actually rate samples so that you know what the proficiency levels are. Sometimes we think we know, and we really don't. I struggle from intermediate mid to intermediate high, and I had to go back on those quite a bit. So we're going to work on that because you have to know what the proficiency levels are and what is the actual goal. So that's another step, that if you're not familiar with the ins and outs of the proficiency levels and how you rate samples, speaking and writing and all that, that's the second thing that you've got to do before you just jump in to implement a program. Then you do need to do some benchmark testing to find out where these students are and where you have strengths and where you have weaknesses in your program. That's what we did at UAB when we began our proficiency-based program a few years ago. We tested the first cohort, and quite honestly, I was shocked that listening was our lowest. I thought, we speak 90% target language. Why is listening so low? But through reflection, I realized that all of our teaching, we're using gestures and pictures, and we're jumping around. They have all these visual cues. And now what do? We use YouTube. And so they've got all sorts of visual cues. Well, the test is auditory. There aren't any visual cues. So I had to rethink my instruction based on that. And so you want to do some of this benchmark testing, so that you're not surprised at the end and you go, what? How did this happen? Because like I said, I was really surprised. So we started doing strictly auditory listening activities in our classes, and then unfortunately the pandemic happened, so we weren't able to test that yet. We're going to make sure that it's working. But I mean, anecdotally, I think our students are doing better in the upper levels there. So there are lots of other steps before you just need to jump right in and say, I want this on the transcript, I want to do this, I want to do that. So you have to think through all of the process. And I think, what some of the teachers earlier had shared with you all is super important, creating the team, all those kind of things. And so ALA will be there to help you with that. And all next summer, that's what we'll be doing. That's what our professional development is going to be on, is proficiency, recognizing proficiency levels, and how to teach your students to use the data from the tests, and how you all use the data to improve your instruction. So that's kind of what we hope you will get out of it. Is my time about over? Oh, I have 2 minutes. Fabulous. I have one more thing to tell you all. So the Alabama World Language Education Foundation, completely different from ALA, is ALEF. Anyway, it's complicated. We have a program called WILD, Weekend Immersed in Language Development. It's fabulous. students who go to the 4-H club in Columbiana on Friday evening. It's for Spanish, French, and German. And they sign a pledge that they are only going to speak that language the entire weekend. And it is a blast. They leave on Sunday afternoon. The program, you have a flyer in your packet, okay? And a lot of people say, what can a weekend do? Well, it's not going to, improve their proficiency, leaps and bounds, but what it does is it gives them confidence. We've had some naysayer teachers who have actually emailed us after the weekend to say, oh my goodness, there's been such a change in so-and-so. She's just constantly speaking French in class, and it's just amazing. And because we can tell our students not to worry about making mistakes and whatnot, and that communication is the most important thing. But they don't really get it until they're in an immersive environment, even if it's just for the weekend. And then they really see that the key is, oh, just get that message out there. What am I trying to say? I'm not going to worry if I conjugated the verb right. I'm just going to get the verb out, right? And so it boosts their confidence. And what you have then is a ripple effect to your class. So that kid comes back, they're confident, they're speaking the language, and then everybody's like, oh, look at her, she's speaking the language, and she's not really that worried about, making a grammar error. She's just trying to get her message across. And so it's a trickle effect out to the whole class. And teachers who have students who participated in the program are absolutely blown away by their students and the leaps and bounds of confidence that they have in their language. So I would really encourage you guys, we weren't able to do it because of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, so we're bringing it back. And so I hope that a lot of your students will be able to participate. And I think it's a great opportunity, in terms of the SEAL, they're going to see what it's like to be completely immersed and to not worry so much about making a mistake. Because our kids are so programmed that mistakes are bad. And we've got to get them out of that. We want them to be risk takers to get out there and really level up. So if you have any questions about any of that stuff, I know that was a lot. I'm here. I will be able to answer any of your questions after. I'll be happy to talk to you.
First of all, I want to thank Dr. Long for having me here this afternoon. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. This is really my first time doing something related totally to the Seal of Biliteracy. As you know, this was just signed into law, and I am new to the position of English Learner Administrator, so everything basically is new, and we are working really hard to move this forward. I also want to thank Dr. Chambliss and Dr. Spezzini for being the best advocating for the students and for the seal, for the law to be passed. And I just can't thank them enough, because I know about this for years. It's been happening for years. But last year I took this position, and then this April we went to the Capitol to have it signed, and it was just a huge event. And so I just can't thank you enough for your work. One of my primary roles as an English Learner Administrator is coordinating the English Learner Program that indirectly and directly affects the English learner and supports all English learner programs, their families, the students and the educators that are around that. And so I also lead the completion and the implementation and the rollout, because we have a statewide rollout of the new English Learner Framework for Success. And so that is a huge piece of my work. That work, right now, we are doing two major things for that work. That work will be ongoing. It's systemic, so it's never gonna end. But right now, our huge pieces of work are the implementation of Elevation. And I'm not sure all of you know what that is, but Elevation is a web-based platform that will allow because it's designed to work with English learner administrators and teachers to help them be collaborative and be effective in the classroom. So, so this is a huge piece of my work right now. And along with that, we also implemented recently, we started on about the last few weeks of June, we started with language translation services. The word of the company we work with is Masterword. And what that is for the state is a huge piece, because for the state now, they have what is called VRI services, which is Video Remote Interpretation Services. And what that is, at the tip of their finger, they could call, we have about 200, it's actually close to 300 languages that are available to have an interpreter at the tip of your finger. And that includes all the Mayan languages. So all of those limited diffusion languages, not necessarily Mayan, it could be, you know, like a Middle Eastern language. We have interpreters for that are serving. And what this has done since June is being able to connect the families closer. So this is a huge step from the department, because now our schools do not have to pay for interpreters. Along with that program, they get to translate documents. So for instance, if you have a student that just came in from Africa and has transcripts, we are able to translate the transcripts within 24 hours. And so imagine registration is faster, we can get the students in the schools a lot faster. So another significant piece of my job has been the Seal of Biliteracy. This is my newest piece, but I have right now, my team is made of, I have 2 education specialists that are at the state level, and then I have 12 regional coaches. I have one of my regional coaches back there, I think. But we serve the state. They support instructionally. Each of the 12 regionals have a region where they serve, and they're supporting that particular region. This is, I finished the hiring in July, so there were only 4 originally, four regional coaches divided among the whole state. So you can imagine the amount of support we provided was very minimal. Now with the 12, now we're aiming to provide a lot more support. When Governor Ivey signed the bill into law, we began our work. The state specialist and myself started to put our heads together and started to, first of all, just read the law for a minute, just to get us very, well, at least have a working knowledge of it. And then we had to start creating or writing guidance, because that is what is the most important part. When we started writing this guidance, we put the law on the side and begin the writing. And that's, it has taken quite a bit. I mean, it started in April, but like I said, that if it was only our only job, and you know, you're all teachers, so you know we have 100 hats that we wear daily. So I'm sure you understand, but the priority for us right now with the SEAL is to make sure that these guidelines are completed, because not only we're doing the guidelines, but we are designing the SEAL. We want the SEAL to be special because it's going to be in students' transcripts in the actual diploma, but also have that endorsement in their transcript. So we're working on those 2 pieces, but about the guidelines, our goal is to have them, we have created, or we are putting together team of people at the state level, that it's going to be the stakeholders, that they all have a part of the seal in one way or another, or it affects their work in one way or another. And so we are having them sit with us, along with federal programs, believe it or not, because there's a lot of pieces that need to be looked at also. And so we are planning by mid-October to have finished all these meetings, and then these guidance should be vetted right after. That means vetting it means that we will be available for you. I'm excited to be working with them, and I'm going to try to coordinate with Dr. Chambliss because of the training next year. I'm really interested to be part of that, and my specialist as well, because we are going to carry that throughout the state. So we all need to be very knowledgeable, and we need to be working alongside the experts right here. And so one of the things that we included in the guidelines was a purpose. And we began by trying to encourage that we knew that we needed to put in the student's brain early on the idea of having this seal. And I think that's super important. So one of the things we said, beginning 7th, 8th grade, no later than that, we're going to try to have them be aware and have counselors work with them to make plans. Plans are super important for that. So we want also the Institutes of Higher Education that we will have a method with them to allow them to get credit. I am the parent of 2 girls that were born bilingual not by choice, because my husband and I are Mexicans, both of us, and the girls were born and they didn't know any difference between either one of the 2 languages. They were exposed at birth from both, but it saddened me when they got to college that my oldest daughter is trilingual now, but she had already started her 3rd language at the end of high school, and when she got to college, she tried to earn credit, and at first they didn't know what to do with that, because she wanted to be recognized that she could read, write, speak, and listen to these 2 other languages. So she worked with her college, and she eventually got credit. So they did what you said, that they looked at where they did an assessment where she was in each one of those languages, and then gave her credit. Like with the Spanish, she went all the way, but then with the French, she had I think 9 credits. But imagine, she was almost, with all those credits, she was a freshman, but she had so many credits already, and that's important, and that made her want to do it more. And so I have it firsthand, and I understand what it is and what implications it has in children, and we have so many of them at the state. I mean, we have 39,000 English learners in the state of Alabama right now. And so just imagine if we could get a big percentage of them try to attain the seal. So one other consideration we have under the guidelines was the financial considerations. The State Department is not going to require every school to participate in this. It's going to be by choice. So, but they will have. They also will have to pay for all the expenses. But here is a good bit of information for those of you who are involved in that. Title money will pay for this. So there are options there. There's option, and it will be written down in the guidance. There's option to use Title III, Title I, Title IV. So there are multiple options. So really, it won't come out of the school's funding if you really look into this guidance and really try to adapt it to the needs of that particular school or district, okay? And so another thing within that guidance is the planning for implementation. We have a long list of things that need to be considered. One that has been on the table, and we have been having lots of conversations, is the team the Seal of Biliteracy team that needs to be present in that district. Whoever district that chooses to be part of these has to become, that team has to be made of just more than the world language teachers. We need counselors involved. We need at least one person in leadership or administrator, and we, make teams of that, because what they can bring to the table is important to get these students moved, and especially those counselors. We need the buy-in. Those counselors are our best friends right now with that. So we put them in the guidance, and also the proficiency criteria. And it was, I'm not going to repeat it because you said it perfectly, but I just want to clarify for the state of Alabama. For WIDA, the scoring has to be 4.8, not 5. 5 is for the screening, but 4.8 is when they exit. And so, but I know not every student attains that WIDA score, but if they know that now they have another thing to look forward on the site, so saying they have their native language is Spanish, for instance, and so they may work a little harder for their WIDA, knowing that at the end of high school they will have that seal that will open so many doors, even if they go work for a technical course or anything. I mean, what being bilingual changes as far as your job. Sometimes you earn more money just because you're bilingual, and they need to understand that. And so also the assessments are listed. We listed basically the same that she mentioned earlier. Those are the assessments that we're gonna have listed for you to use. But the same thing, we talk about the benchmarks. You don't have to pay. You can make your own benchmarks. That's why you have that team, and then only assess them this time. And for assessments for those languages that do not have like all of the modes, there are options, and options also for children who have an IEP or have a disability. We have an option for them, and one of that option is to create a portfolio. And the portfolio, is just basic, just like a portfolio you create when you're getting out of college. Similar to that, just putting your work in that portfolio, and that will be accepted. And each district will have their own requirements, and we have a list of the district requirements and how things need to happen, like step by step. So the guidance is pretty comprehensive, and it basically addresses almost everything you can think of. And I know things are gonna come out too, and they're gonna and we're gonna need to look at it one more time. But for the time being, I think it's a pretty comprehensive document. I also would like to encourage all of you world language teachers to encourage the middle school students to start looking at these from a different perspective. Now that you know that the seal exists and the implications to that would be a great idea to start planting the seed, because that's all it takes. And the more it's in their mouths and the more they're talking about it, the more other people are going to find out, parents are going to find out, and then in little or no time we will have a lot of kids earning the seal. I also wanted to tell you, this is just another fun fact. When I became an administrator, maybe a couple of months after, I met with Sean Stevens, who is my immediate supervisor. He is the coordinator for instructional services at the State Department, and he shared with me that world languages were usually paired up. The specialist that took care of that was the social studies specialist, but he says, you just earned a new job. And so this is the new part of my job that I'm just getting my feet wet. I just looked at the standards. Basically, I started to look at the standards, but now if you have anything world languages, it's gonna go through us in instructional services EL. So I think it pairs better. I think it just feels like, I know social studies does pair well too, but I feel like it's a language, so it goes well. And so we are going to start also to work with them if they allow us and piggyback on their professional development, so that we are part to do best practices and align your instruction with the standards, so that we have, I don't think we have had a lot of, given a lot of professional, or none, as far as I know, professional development for all world language teachers. But so you know, I am working on that, and I'm happy to work with them. We need to start making sure that you guys are taken care of and that you are receiving the professional development that you need. I'm going to put a group of world language teachers that will help me, you know, with finding out about the needs of what is needed out there, because I'm really not sure. I know very vaguely what is needed, professional development, but not in depth. So I need, if you would please, and you probably have my contact in the package that Dr. Long gave you. If not, I'll share it with you after. But if you're interested in being part of this team, I'm hoping to have at least a team of 5 or 6 world language teachers that work with us, so that we can put together that professional development. So if you're very interested, you just contact me, and I have already one teacher already approached me. She's from Montgomery County. But if you are interested, please let me know. And thank you.
Okay, I want to tell you 2 stories. Every 10 minutes still, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. One story is called "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Seal," and the other one is "A Tale of 2 Districts." Okay. So what happened? How did this funny thing happen? Well, in 2019, in January, Krista, my friend Krista, just across the street in World Languages and We're in Education, says, "Josie and Susan, you got to come with me to Montgomery, to Montevallo." Really? Yes, we're going to have Seal of Biliteracy, and Arthur Cho's coming from California. And I thought, yeah, I'm from California too. And then I was thinking, oh, he must be the little Chinese guy that I see all the time at the TESOL convention, sitting there with his Velasquez dictionaries and World of Seal of Biliteracy. And I thought, well, okay, yeah, we'll go to Montevallo. We're always too busy, but we'll go anyway. So we got all excited there. And then I immediately, the day before actually, the Yale coaches and Michelle Lee, she always contacts me from the state, an alumna, and she goes, "When are you going to present this to your mega in Mobile?" And I had told her, "I don't know, I'm thinking." And so then I went to the, Montevallo, and then I wrote to her and said, "I'm going to present on Seal of Biliteracy. And I already invited Arthur Cho to come, so you've got to approve the presentation in Mega," because he said he'll come. And he's the one that was the original. He was with his Velasquez dictionaries in the greater LA area when the families gathered together, Californians together, and said, "We need somebody to sponsor something." And he sponsored the Seal and continued to do so. And he's traveled to most of the states and traveled to us 3 times in 1 year. Okay. So then in July, Mobile did Celebrating Bilingualism, Enhancing Career Options. And there were about 50 people there, 2 sessions. And you know, I knew some people, I didn't know other people. Fine, we have a great time. That's when I found out that Lori Valquiera, head of English learners, here in Jefferson County, the second largest school district in the state, that they were about to have the board approve it. And here we worked together all the time, and I didn't know that they had been moving forward on that. And Natalie Dooley was there from Madison, and sure, they kind of helped us present, and they gave their an update on what they were doing, and the regional coaches were there. That, just a couple months later, Decatur, which is to the north of here and has a large population of English learners, and we will use that term just for convenience sake, they were kind of doing a showcase of their newcomer program for especially students with limited limited schooling, right, that were coming in. And they invited a state representative. And that was then, and then when Michelle Lee went there and others from Montgomery, and they were showing what they were doing, and Michelle said, I learned about a seal of biliteracy. And Terry Collins, the state representative, was there, and she said, what is that? And they said, here it is. Oh, well, I didn't know that it happened in fall 2019. Okay, then in January 2020, I was on my rampage now, I was going to support the seal, and we had this, we presented at the first Alabama leaders advocating for English learners conferences for school administrators. So I presented there, and that's where Edmund's boss was there, the superintendent of Russellville. He had started that new initiative, and they were excited. Then 2 weeks later at the Alabama Mississippi TESOL conference in Auburn, yes, Auburn, you know, but I might be from Alabama, that's okay. Went to Auburn, and there we had a panel of 6, plus Arthur Cho again from California. We had 3 Mississippi colleagues show off a little, that they already had it. But we wanted their input. What were they doing at that point? And then invited Lori Valquiera to talk about how here, the second largest county in the state, a complicated, very large county with urban, rural, and suburban in one county, how they had just gotten approved, and Madison also presented, Natalia, and Krista came. So we're always trying to work together, world languages, English learners. Okay, so then I'm going, okay, one more thing. I'm on this Alabama Literacy Alliance, and I'm going, well, and I go there 4 times a year. And I said, well, I'll present. Would you guys like to hear about the Seal of Biliteracy? Oh yeah, okay. And so I presented, and then afterwards, Margaret was on there. Margaret, she's Gunter, and she's on the Alabama Commission of Higher Ed, AIC. And I knew AIC, because I always have to send stuff there from UAB. And I didn't know that she was policy between AIC and the legislature, between AIC and the ALSDE. And she said afterwards, Susan, I didn't know you were also doing the Seal of Biliteracy. And I thought, well, I'm trying. And she said, you know, we're writing a bill. Would you like to take a look at it? Well, sure, I've never seen a bill before. I didn't tell her that. I said, sure. So she sends it to me, and she said, I'd like your input. And by email, I didn't want to tell her, I kind of know what it's about, but I can't understand what you wrote. You know, I mean, it was just totally, it was like, if you know English, and if you don't know English first, and okay, wait a minute. Why don't we say, if you're going to qualify in English, you can do this, this, or that, and if you're going to qualify in another language. So instead of telling her I want to rewrite the whole thing, I said, can I restructure it? And she said, yes. So I spent, you know, just cleared up everything I was doing that day, wrote it. Then I shared it with a couple close colleagues. They gave me their feedback. And then I sent it back to her, and I said, Margaret, and here I'm talking to somebody at AIC, you know? I said, can I have stakeholder input? She said, sure. And I said, like, about 20 or 30 people across the state. She said, whatever. So I spent the weekend sending it out, getting input, and I told everybody, right now, like, tomorrow, I need your input. So I was looking, and my drafts of this went 214, 216, 221, 224, out the door, 10 days later. So, you know, that, to spring 2021, it stopped, 2020 stopped right there. Not just that COVID came, but the representative whose bill it was, her husband died suddenly. So stop. Then the next year it was starting up again, and I was given talking points on January 15, 2021, and I looked at it. And then I looked at the real bill, and I said, it needs to get fixed. She said, we wrote it just like you wrote it. I said, no. I said, AP, if you're going to qualify in English, AP language. If you're going to qualify, AP exam. And if you're going to qualify in another language, AP. And she had put AP English in both of those. I said, no. She said, we did it just like you did. No. Okay, so they fixed it. Okay, so that part got fixed. So then, December 2021, she said, we submitted the bill for early viewing. I didn't know what that was, but I kind of interpreted. And then didn't hear anything. And 4 months later, on April 4th, 2022, oh, by the way, you know, the governor's going to sign this in 36 hours. Would you and some people from UIB be interested? I thought, me and UIB, what about the state? You know, whole state. Can I get 4 people, 10 people, 20 people? Really? Now, the thing that happened was there was a tornado day. And so a lot of people on their way had to turn around because the superintendent said, come back. Okay? But we still had 20 people there. She said, I can't imagine you got so many people. You know, even Russellville, Edmund went from Russellville to Montgomery with his parents. And what happened? The person there said from A, he didn't realize, he said, are you teachers? No. Will you just stand away? I said, they will stand in the picture behind the governor. I said, they represent all the parents and families of the state. It's not just the teachers, it's not just administrators, it's the families. He said, okay. I didn't know who he was either, but anyway, that's what happened. Now for 2 teachers, quick stories, okay? Jefferson County, why did they start it when they did? Let's go back to summer 2015, and all of you guys had a professional development, and you introduced the term Seal of Biliteracy. And as new Spanish teacher in Pinzamelli High School, which is on the northeastern fringe of Birmingham, was at that conference. And she went back, and she had just finished her master's with us with dual certification ESL Spanish. She went to the EL coordinator for Jefferson County and said, this is what I want. And that was new, and that was in 2015. And Lori, the administrator, said, sure, start gathering the information. And they gathered the information for a year, and then they put together a task force, that's another 2 years, and then they had it approved 2019, 4 years after having heard it. But they were looking at what this state did, a neighboring school, but a totally different demographics. And they have a larger demographic, so it took them longer. And COVID derailed it, and derailed it. They were ready to go in 2020, nothing 2021 on the high end, like the backside of COVID. Maybe there were a few for AP, but none from the English learner community. Nothing, no Apple, no stamp, no nothing. Okay, so here, spring 2022, they awarded 74 seals. Out the door, first time. Of the 74 seals, 40 were through Apple in several languages, and 34 through AP. This is a district with over 40,000 students, 54 languages, and 13 high schools. Of the 13 high schools on their first attempt at the seal, 8 high schools awarded it. Okay, now I want to go to Dana, Pinta Valley High. Pinta Valley High is 30% Hispanic on the outskirts of Birmingham. That means that if you're an elementary teacher, you probably have 50% Hispanic. Of the 30% Hispanic at this high school of 1,019, I did gather a few days ago, 130 are still receiving active ESL services. 130, which means they were not there in elementary school. They arrived middle school or high school if they're still getting services. The others probably tested out ESL services early on. So they have 2 full-time ESL teachers. And of that school, on their first attempt, gave 20 seals. They were all 100% Spanish speakers and heritage Spanish, none of them that were learning Spanish passed the Apple or the AP. Okay? Again, it was first attempt. So 20, and she said that a lot could have qualified, did have the scores, had gotten the 4.8 on Access and everything, but it took them months to get the contract with Apple because it was such a large district. By the time they were ready to give the test, it was, where's my date for the test? May 3rd. Well, May 3rd is at the very end of the Alabama school year, and it was the same week as the students doing dual enrollment, and a lot of these bilinguals were doing dual enrollment and didn't want to have that derail them from that test. So they didn't sit for it. But next year they plan to do the test between Access and ACT. There's a window that they're going to do it in that's earlier. They didn't get the results back until a couple days before graduation, but all 74 were recognized. Plus, so that was their first attempt. She said the ELs felt empowered by literacy, with their biliteracy honored, respected, and recognized. And some who did not have post-graduation plans thought, oh, I can be a teacher, I can be a translator. Okay? And 2 minutes for the last one. Gulf Shores Gulf Shores, 250 miles from here. We just graduated, we had the ESL teacher that had been there for many years when it was Baldwin County School District. One of 25 teachers where the needs of the school district are taken care of at the central office. All of a sudden, she saw herself in spring 2019, facing in summer 2019, being the only ESL teacher of a new school district and in charge of all county services for her district services. And she told me, well, if you have any ideas, let me know, because she's a personal friend as well as alum. And I said, well, fine. And then I found out in Montevallo when I went, so I called her up and I said, Stephanie, there's a thing called Seal of Biliteracy. You're going to need that for your new school district. So she talks to the new superintendent a couple months before they split. And they became a new school district July 1st, 2019. And across the Mobile Bay in Mega, we were presenting. And she and her Spanish teacher, always EL with Spanish, with foreign language, world languages, must go together. And their new assistant superintendent, the three of them crossed the bay and met with Arthur Cho and with me in a hotel room. And we planned out what they needed for the new district. July 2019, and it passed their board February 2020, in time for COVID. Okay. And so what does that mean? If it's an enormous district that might take you 3 years, or it took that long, before it was a state seal. Now it should be less time. If you're a tiny school district where the superintendent wants to make a big deal on his first year and show the community a walk his talk, which was everybody's going to become bilingual, okay? At any rate, their first year was 2021, and they doubled it by 2022. So what does it mean, double? Well, they went from 2 students to 4 students. But they had 3 languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and Vietnamese in the second year. First year was Spanish and Portuguese. They have almost as many speakers of Brazilian Portuguese as they have of Spanish in that district. And one of the Portuguese, the first Portuguese to sit for the exam, and they were doing Apple, was a non-floaty. In other words, she tested out of English upon entering kindergarten. So yes, because it's a tiny school district, elementary, middle, high, in 3 blocks, plus athletic fields, a block from the beach. Their ESL teacher, one teacher across a small district, they know who those speakers of heritage languages are from the day they enter kindergarten. And she had been a teacher there for 15 years. The thing was, now she had 4 underclassmen also sitting for Apple at the same time. And those hadn't yet passed the 4.8 access, but now they had the Apple. They passed Spanish or Portuguese or Chinese, whatever. Now finally they were motivated. I think they'll get 4.8 in access. Okay? There. Okay, those are my stories. All right. One teacher in an enormous district, one teacher in a tiny new district.
All right, these are your experts. Questions, comments? All right. And we're off to the races. Do you want to go to that or?
Yeah. So my questions are about the guidelines, and so I know that they're forthcoming, but two questions are credentialing. As the state moves forward in requiring a credential as students graduate, will the seal count as one of those credentials for students?
I don't have an answer for it. That is the problem. We still have a lot of things to iron out, and that is one of them. Yeah, we need to come up with something for that.
I know that would get a lot of stakeholder efforts put behind it if it counted as one of those credentials.
Yes.
And then the other question is for the 4.8 on the WIDA access. Is there a time frame for that? Like if they exit in 3rd grade, does that mean that they can use that in high school?
Yes, that part, but also if they, on the same year they graduate, they just do it that year on the 12th grade, it also counts.
And she mentioned a non-float, so again, if a student comes in kindergarten and is free as a non-float, does that count as their English credential?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I would like to know, so I know you're working on the guidelines, when will our school registrars or whoever is going to be in charge of checking all the boxes, are they going to be educated about the SoBL program?
Yes, so once we have the guidelines ready, we will send information out to the LEAs and let them know that the guidelines are ready, and we will find out who's interested, because like I told you before, it's not mandatory, they can choose in or out. And so once we have the people, then we need to provide training on those guidelines. So
will we be graduating the seniors in 2023 with the seal, or is this something that's a whole other year?
is most not so 2023 is this school year, right? No, I think it will probably be the next one, most likely the next one, unless this team gets it worked fast enough so that because it won't be fair for the students if we don't give them plenty of time,
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes,
If we already
yes.
have our own district seal, should we just plan on doing that?
Plan on doing that.
For this year.
I had a person yesterday told me the same thing. She's gonna plan for this year. She also has I can't remember what county it was. I was in a large meeting yesterday, and she said that they're gonna move forward with what they have right now, and then wait for guidance from us. Thank you.
And remember, I want to insert myself that you can always do the global seal while we're waiting for the Alabama State seal.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of wondering, if we don't have anything yet, should we kind of wait? We shouldn't implement, a whole district level seal. I don't really know how that would work. We should wait until the state comes out and maybe if this is something that's here to just be global. That would be cool.
If anything, I'm thinking that at least we can get the guidelines in everyone's hands so that they know what to expect and what to plan for next year. So that will help, because it has all of the pieces that need to happen. So the planning and all of the planning of implementation is a big part.
I would just add to that, in terms of the planning, it's not just waiting for the guidelines and the specifics of the procedures, but there's in-house things. You're going to get people excited, those things. You want to think about your programs and are they aligned to those proficiency spaces? Is that education that has to happen in PD within your department? Can you start doing some benchmarks to find out where are your students exiting at the end of each year? So there's some things that you can do in preparation. And of course, I'm going to say yes, I think you should do the goal.
I guess just to piggyback off of that, I'm with Trustful City Schools. We have a very well-established Spanish program, lots of kids in our AP class. So I really would love for this group of kids to get the chance to show their proficiency. I'm hearing that maybe the global seal is going to be the best option for this year. And so I'm wondering if that is the case, how do we go about making that happen with our superintendents and assistant superintendents to make it happen as efficiently as possible. I tried to get it started as a district level thing last spring, and it was kind of just kicked around like, that's a good idea. And I need it to actually happen for the kids so that they can get that recognition. So I would love if anybody has like some suggestions about like steps you take if you want to get the global seal implemented, since the state seal probably won't be ready.
And I mean, Linda, would you like to answer that? Because I think that you don't overlook the fact that we have the executive director of the Global Seal here. And that she also, she didn't say, she referenced the Global Seal of Biliteracy website, but the website's rather well developed and has a lot of those tools. So, when you have your homework from this workshop, that's a place you need to go look, because it's not just written from the perspective of the teacher, it's for like the general public, and that might be more like your school administrators to be able to understand what this is and what it would do for the students. Now, Linda, go.
So the Global Seal has two different application procedures. The most common one is a group application. We take just simple demographic contact information. You can apply before or after you test. And we accept tests up to 12 months old. So if you had AP tests, for example, or stamp or Apple tests from last year, that would qualify at one of, remember we have 3 different levels of certification, then you can submit those scores to us with a candidate sheet, the names of your students, and then we send you completely free of charge. We don't cover the cost of testing, but we'll send you the certificates, embossed seals. You can request an extra set of seals to go on to the diploma if you like, but that's all shipped to you completely free. So it's, but once you have a state seal, if you like that, you can continue, but use one test and award your students 2 different pieces, because they're useful for different purposes in some cases, but we truly want to support the state seal and make that a really big deal. And I'm excited, 39,000 ELs we can certify, that's exciting. So the simple procedure is just our application, it's right on our website. We try to keep everything really simple, and we pay for the certificates, so you don't even have to go by case.
And they're really nice, and it's numbered.
And the serial number of the certificate is what goes in on LinkedIn. That's what makes it digitally shareable. If you can transcript it to a university or an employer.
So I guess my thing is, how do we coordinate that with like the registrar and like getting it to be an official seal for our kids when they're graduating,
So I would, share the website with your administrators. It is pretty non-world language person or English language learner person friendly. Mm-hmm. And any questions you have, just shoot them my way. I'd be happy to help. I'd talk to your administrator if you want that.
And if you're interested in doing that and taking the stamp, if you want to use the stamp 4S, you can email me and I can put you in contact with our K-12. Nick does higher ed, but I know the K-12 rep for this area. He was on the school board with me, and so I can put you in touch with him to get the stamp test set up for you.
So I'm thinking, like you guys are talking about benchmarks, if they take these stamp tests, because unfortunately money is not my concern. My concern is getting through the red tape of like, yes, your kids actually did do this, and we actually are going to authorize this and say, this is official.
I will say administrators love evidence and numbers. And it's like, this isn't just like some things you make up.
Right.
Because it sounds good. It's
Yes.
an actual, measured, nationally recognized, situation. I can't tell you how many times I had to explain what proficiency was.
Also, they're not
Just
going
over and
to
over,
put it
you don't
officially
understand.
on their transcript. Nobody really, to be honest, in the job market, nobody asks for their high school transcript. But having that shareable thing that's already online, irrelevant of what the school registrar does, it doesn't really matter, because if they decide they want to go to Auburn, and Auburn has said they're going to guarantee a pathway, they don't care if the registrar office says it or not. If they have that official certificate, that's what they're gonna take. So just,
Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to worry about what your administrator says, because if you've got that certificate, then the student, that's what's important for the student.
But there are, like I reached out, I hate to volunteer her because she's not here, but Lisa Garrison was nice enough to share her proposal presentation that they used.
She will share that, she's
Yeah,
here with us.
and she even talked to me on the phone, and and so she gave me all kinds of tips about presenting to my admin and how to go about it with really good information. And it worked like a charm, like I said. And I threw out other names. I was like, hey, City Hills is doing it, like Max is doing it. And so that helped with that competitive thing they were talking about earlier with admin.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to make a clarification. When you asked me about non-floating, somebody over here, no, they're not going to do access. They're
Right.
going to do ACT.
Okay.
Okay, so being non-floating or when they test out of access early on as elementary, when they get to high school, they will measure their English in another one of the other ways.
On the ACT, that'll be what their credential is.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a list of all of the options that you have in that guidance.
So just to clarify, the screening test is not only the
Yes, because once they get to high school, they have to take those to demonstrate proficiency.
Right. Then somebody said 39,000. Those are the ELs receiving services. It's not the amount of students in the schools who had been former ELs or who had.
Mike, did that include the former years or not?
Yeah, we have, the 39 is including our
the
fellows.
former years? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's fine.
The former ELs. But it would not include those who had never been in ESL services. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have.
Right.
And we have time for one more question or comment, and then we're going to shift out of the panel and into the wind down, and then we're going to send you on your merry way. Any last? So, yes, a hand.
Edmund Martinez, that's the Russellville City, so just so you know who she was referring to. Now, one thing that I do want to mention, as far as the takeaways from this, one thing that I want to make sure that everybody takes away is something that we are drilled in ESL. And saying that, how many of you are EL? Okay, so I guess the rest of y'all are just straight foreign language. But when she made the analogy of the marriage between the two, the biggest thing with the marriage between EL and the foreign language is the same reason why she was chosen for that position. They're closely related. We, teach our students English. We get them ready for this test. Now, what is it that we do test in EL? We have 4 domains. Where have you heard that today? So we're used to doing these testing. We test them in the listening, the reading, the writing, and of course the speaking. The speaking is the biggest part, and if you ever try to record kids in a room during the speaking test, you'll know it's so that no one around them hears them. And that's why these two work so well. So one other thing that we do in EL, of course, is advocacy, and this is what we have to get out of this. You are the advocates for your students. You are going to talk to these people, hey, this is what we want you to do. This is what we want, for our students. You are the voice for your students, and that's a big takeaway overall of, making sure that foreign language gets brought into this. Because as an EL teacher, we already, been exposed to the idea of a seal of biliteracy. We've had, meetings together. Of course, I went to UAB and I graduated under Dr. Spezzini. So I got to hear this in the making. And building that excitement is what you're going to have to do with your students, along with the advocacy part. And that's a really big takeaway that I want to make sure that everybody gets. And of course, I wanted to explain why she said that it's like a marriage. There are 2 programs that are not identical, but they work hand in hand to help your students. And helping your students is ultimately what you do as teachers. Of course, advocacy is a big part. And I don't think there's anybody in here that doesn't love their kids because, heck, we spend more time with them than their own parents most of the time. So, okay, I'm good.
That was nice. Thank you. Sort of bring it together comments. So I would like you to think, these are your local experts. Here are your resources. in all over the state, and she's our point person. If you don't know who you can partner with, if you're a world language person and you don't know who you can partner with in your area of the state in terms of English language learners, she will know. So please, what we'll be doing in the Google folder that will arrive, the link will arrive on Monday. There will be kind of like a directory of who was at the conference and how to contact them. So their email addresses will be there along with your email addresses that you shared when you registered. And just basically your name, your school, and languages that you teach. So that you'll be able to get in touch with each other, because I think if you learned nothing else today, it would be that this is a process. It's going to be a process in terms of not only just getting that seal implemented in Alabama, but then the other things that we want, right? Like when we were talking about college credit, I turn around and I look at my Birmingham Southern people and I'm like, you could be the first college in Alabama to do this. So this will be something that's ongoing. We want to keep the conversation going. But I want you to just take a minute and thank this group. We'll let them. We covered so much terrain today. All right, so here's what I need you to do. I need to do some very special thank yous, and then I need you to do it. Oh my God, you can't leave the room yet. Okay, you do have to do this much for me. Please take the evaluation, which is on a QR code sheet. There are only 11 questions, 1 per 5. A grant from Alabama Humanities Alliance supported us today, and I need to give them some data about what you got out of this today. And so please, oh please, do that. So pull your phones out while you're doing that, while you're scanning. I would like to just go briefly through some thank yous. To call attention to our special guests today. We had terrific keynotes, and I want to, in particular, thank Linda Agnatz and Kristen Dobbin for coming and supporting us in this way and getting us up to speed with all the other states all in one day. What a marathon, okay? So thank you so much, keynoters. Yay! The elephant in the room, but not physically with us, and that's the Alabama Humanities Alliance, for supporting us financially to be able to put on this one-day extravaganza for you. So I want to officially say that. Next in line, we want to thank Birmingham Southern and Lamia Ben Yosef and her wonderful department for hosting us today. They've done a lot, folks, to get ready for this. So I know you're tapping in things, but I'm going to tap for you. Thank you so much, and you were very well taken care of. And then more than that, I just want to really thank Avon Assessment, who brought people here for us, which is huge, and the Global Seal of Biliteracy. So Nick, who flew out, and Linda, who flew down south to be with us. Thank you again for being here. I want to thank all of the teachers. I know you learned a lot at various levels today. So we have such a wide variety of teachers here. I really appreciate you taking a Saturday. I know how huge that is. And to be here, it really speaks to your level of dedication and what you want to bring to your students. And I find that really inspiring as an educator. So thank you for being here. I think the wisest thing for me to do is to just let you tap your little answers in, and then just drive yourself home and put your feet up. Do whatever it is you do to unwind, because you've had a lot of information thrown your way today. You'll be, like I said, you'll be hearing from us on Monday. If anybody else has to have the last word, you just jump right in, because I think, c'est fini. I think we did it, meeting adjourned, and thank you, and thank you for filling out the evaluation.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll work on writing my own. So,